Hello, everybody. Everybody, as I understand, there's nobody here. But hello, everybody, and welcome to another live stream on Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn, as you probably already know. Good news is that I think that I now have the ability to look at my chat and to look at some other data while I'm live. So that's super useful to have. I hope I'm live. The stats currently show that I have 0 viewers, so that's nice. If there is anybody out there who's alive and watching, please do let me know in the chat. This is the first time I've put the YouTube chat up inside my streaming software. So I can't be sure because can't be sure that it's actually working. Oh, fantastic. Camila. Hello, Camila. Hi. Nice to see you again. I think you might do rather well under that. It's always nice to get nice comments, and I will say probably 90% of the comments, if you're an English teacher, you probably feel this way too, right? 90% of the comments are positive, or maybe even 95% of the comments are positive, and then 5% are negative, and then you kind of hyper focus on those negative comments, and then you don't sleep at night or you cry in the shower or something like this. Hello, Humayun. Nice to see you. Oh, now I have some stats. 7 concurrent viewers, 7 viewers at the same time. Wow, absolutely amazing. To remind you, all of you good people in the chat, there is, I think, a little bit of a delay between like when I talk and when you actually hear me. And that can make it a little bit like awkward and cringe when you're checking answers, right? So throughout this live stream, I'll be doing a bit of talking, but I'll also be inviting you guys to make contributions too, either by giving answers or by predicting some bits of information that will come up soon. However, there can be a little bit of a delay. And so you might type something and then I might say, oh, nobody's giving any answer. And then the answer comes through and I've already moved on. So sorry if there is that delay. You can also paint. Oh, I beg to differ, says Hi. I really think painting is, I don't know. I'm cack-handed. I'm not very good at painting at all. But thank you for the motivating name. I can also paint. I can paint. Why not? If someone else can do it, why can't I? Getting a little warning message from OBS saying that my stream quality might not be perfect. Kind of hope it's okay. Anyway, for those of you who are interested in taking part, hello, Orisla? Obushko? Oh, that's a nice name, Obushko. For those of you who are interested in taking part in the listening stuff today, I have put a PDF in my Telegram channel. Hello, Arkanto. You guys could give me some names that I can pronounce. If you're interested in taking part in today's listening lesson stroke test, I have put a PDF in the Telegram channel. Now, you might notice, like, why are there only 3 sections in there? Surely in the IELTS listening test, there are 4 sections. Well, that's because we're focusing specifically on section 4, the most difficult part. I just want to show you how I approach it, and then I'm going to invite you to approach it in the same way, and then I'm going to give you one more in actual test conditions at the end. Yeah, I don't know how long I'll be here for. At least, I guess I'd like to say 60 minutes, but it's going to be at least 90 minutes, and there will be an opportunity for people to ask questions at the end, I promise. Generally, people, just write. Sometimes people even write questions when I'm giving a speaking test, or people write questions when the listening is playing, and it's like, okay, I can't reply to that. So there will be certain times where you can ask questions. Anyway, probably you're thinking, why are you yapping? Let's get into it. I won't delay too much. I always yap a little bit at the beginning, just because I'm waiting for kind of a few more people to come. But no, they had plenty of warning. Damn it. Okay, so we're going to jump straight into our first listening task. And first, what is in listening section 4? Well, as an examiner, I don't necessarily have great amount of knowledge as an examiner. I have examined for tests where I have absolutely no idea what's in the listening or reading. Not once have I seen any reading or listening task connected to it. So examiners often don't know much about the reading or the listening. However, I am also an IELTS teacher, so I am familiar with those reading and listening parts. Listening part 4 is a monologue, and so you listen to one guy or girl talking for a long time about an academic subject or, a professional subject, something that's not everyday, not so familiar, not personal, not connected to your hobbies or interests, something a little bit more abstract. Usually the talking turn is quite long. It's usually like an extract from a lecture or a speech or something like this. The talking turn is actually quite long, and that can make it difficult sometimes to pick out the exact correct answers in this big, deep sea of information. But we're going to start by actually looking at the questions and just spending plenty of time. I'm going to do analysis of the first set of questions. So if you can watch on the screen if you like, but I've also sent this in PDF form to the Telegram channel. But I'm just going to show you how I would approach this first of all, and I'm going to do a little bit of analysis, then we're going to listen, then we're going to check, and then I'm going to invite you guys to do your own analysis of another task, and then you guys can check. So first of all, I want to make sure that I understand this stuff, because this is still, unfortunately, a place where many students still go wrong, where, write no more than 2 words and or a number. Can you write 3 words? And some students say, yes. No more than 2 words. So a maximum of 2 words. Can you write 2 words and a number? Yes, you can. So those are the first thing. That's the first thing I want to look at. Then, of course, I want to look a little bit at the theme that we're dealing with. And of course, you'll be given some instructions. Shall we post our answer here, AJ? Take a pen and a piece of paper and write your answers there. Sometime later, I will ask you to put some answers in the chat. That will be mostly for the second and third one. First, I just want to give a demonstration. Then I'm going to invite you guys to do something similar. So you will usually be given, you will hear a talk about blah, 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 blah. But I cut that part off, unfortunately. So you will hear a talk about the development of animation technology. And so what do we have? Well, I like to look at headings. So first of all, we have animation technology. We have the history of animation technology. Cool. Then we have Pixar animation studios. And then we have future development. So we kind of have 3 things, right? The past, the present, and the future. Kind of. Let's have a look at the past, and then we'll start analyzing or as we look at the questions, we'll start predicting possible answers. Now, of course, we're in preparation mode, so we're not doing it under strict time pressure right now. So we have plenty of time to really analyze it. And I definitely think that's the best approach when you're preparing for the IELTS listening. Can you get 10 out of 10 in part 4, in section 4, when you give yourself 5 minutes to prepare or 10 minutes to prepare? Maybe start with 10 minutes and really analyze if you can get 10 out of 10 or you can get your desired score. Then give yourself maybe 6 minutes. If you can do it in 6 minutes, then give yourself 3 minutes and then work your way down like this. So we're going to take plenty of time. It all started with, like many things, with Thomas Edison in 1889. Cool. Then we got a guy called J. Stuart Blackton. First animated film technique used many of faces. Okay, the first thing that springs out to me, if I think of I think of kind of or type of, but I don't know if that fully makes sense. Used many kinds of faces, used many types of faces. Possibly, what else could it be? Not sure. But okay, not gonna spend too much time worrying about it. Next we have Emile Cole. First animated scene used cutouts made of. Okay, this one's a little bit easier. With made of, typically that refers to some material. So made of paper, made of cardboard, animated scene. I imagine it's one of those like flick books, so probably made of paper. The reason why I like to try to predict some of these answers is that it's often easier. It's often easier to verify whether your answer is correct or not than it is to just find the right answer. And this is a technique that we use if you learn how to become a teacher, for example. You'll always know that you want to give your students a pre-reading or a pre-listening task because it makes it easier when they're listening. They have something to focus on, something to verify if they are right or not. Okay, so next we have Walt Disney, another famous person, not always for good reasons. First talking colour film in 1928 used slides. Multiple slides, maybe? Used, could we think of a material? Not sure. Interesting. Okay, so some of them I feel very confident, like that one, I think I've got paper, I think that's probably right. Kinds or types of faces, probably not, but maybe used slides. Can't really make much of a prediction there yet. Okay, then we get Snow White, Seven Dwarfs. Okay, then we get to our Pixar animation studios. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. Origins, graphics group, fine, over 4. Now, I'm also noticing that they've put the $sign in there. So if they say the word dollars, I'm not going to write the word dollars because that $sign is also there. I'm also going to be, thinking that it's going to be not in the millions, but it's probably going to be in the billions. So I should also remember that probably I need to write something plus billion. So I don't know, 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. Maybe, they might go with something like 3.5, but I can't write 3.5. So maybe they'll go with like 3.5 billion or something like this. That's what's in my mind. So I don't know, I can't predict the exact figure, but I do know roughly what I'm looking for. Okay, then we have Toy Story, cool, Monsters Inc. included as a new animation feature. I haven't seen Monsters Inc., so I'm a little bit lost. But what might be a new animation feature? Could it be something about like talking or laughing or blinking? I expect it's going to be something like super specific, right? Because it's 2001. Animation has been here for a long time. Should be something really detailed, but not sure. Then we get Finding Nemo. Again, we get new techniques in. I mean, the answer is not going to be animation because that would be too vague. We need something more specific. New techniques in movement, in motion, perhaps. New techniques in drawing, gravity, something like this, possibly. Okay, and then in number 7, we get The Incredibles. Again, haven't seen this, sorry. I have seen Toy Story. Believable simulations of people and... I mean, the obvious answer is probably animals, isn't it? People and animals, people and places, people and wildlife, possibly. Buildings, simulations of buildings, not sure if that quite works. Weather, simulations of people and weather, possibly something like that. Who knows? Okay, and then we get to our future developments. Digital humans, focusing particularly on skin and eyes? Well, I don't know. Future developments, what might they focus on? You focus on skin, future developments in animation. Again, it could be motion, fingernails. That's too precise, possibly. Facial expressions, maybe. That would be really detailed. Yeah. Okay. Next, speed. Companies producing will help. So who could help the people who are doing animations? People producing movies will help, possibly, because they have a lot of special effects there. People producing computer games, that's kind of like animation, isn't it? People producing IELTS YouTube videos? I guess not. Okay, color aim to preserve vibrancy. These things, I mean, when we don't have an answer here, these answers are still worth reading because it can act as a signpost to get you ready for the next one, right? So we go, okay, they're talking about color, and I heard that word vibrant or vibrancy, so now I need to get ready for the last one. And then finally, styles of animation, a move from to new concepts. Maybe traditional ideas, a move from traditional ideas to new concepts, a move from older techniques to new concepts. Something like that. So we're looking for like the opposite of new concepts. So this is my fairly long. Oh wow! Somebody donated $10. Oh wow! I put some joke goal up for super chats. I never expected anyone would send me. Arkno says, keep up the great work, Glyn. Somebody asks me for IELTS preparation options. I'll make sure to bring up your services. That's super kind of you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Oh, Camila tells me to watch The Incredibles also. Possibly I'll have to do that. I've seen the poster of it. Yeah. So this is how I go through it, right? And one bit of pushback, one bit of like fighting that I get from students is that they often say, well, isn't this a bit of a waste of time to go through? Isn't it a bit of a waste of time to go through all of these questions before you listen? Because in the real test, you're not going to have that time. But still, we want to understand exactly where we are and what we can and can't do. And so this is why I say, let's see if you can get your target score when you have 10 minutes of preparation. And if you can get your target score when you analyze the questions in full, then try doing it with 5 minutes of preparation, and then try doing it with 3 minutes of preparation. I think too many people just do test after test after test in test condition after test condition after test condition, and it makes it, you just lose the will to live when you keep scoring like 5 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, and you don't get that target score. So when we're in preparation, we want to give ourselves the best possible chance in preparation, taking our time to see if we can get that target score. But enough from me. You've heard my breakdown. You've heard my breakdown of this. Remember, if you want to see these questions, if they're not comfortable on the screen, then you can check out the PDF which I've sent to the Telegram channel. But we're going to start with the listening. So we're going to listen to this first part. As you listen, take a pen and a piece of paper, write down your answers because we're going to check them at the end. Let's see how many I've managed to guess here. We'll do a bit of a check at the end. Let's listen. Let's listen.
Welcome to today's public lecture on the topic of personal debt. I'm Ray Goodman.
Nope, that's the wrong one. Let's try the right one. Any second now.
Very familiar.
We are here.
Unit 6. Listening. Exercise 3.
A little loud.
Good morning, everyone. So we're looking at animation technology today, something we're all very familiar with from seeing blockbuster films such as Toy Story and Shrek. But I'd like to start by looking at how animation began and how the technical side of things developed. Not long after the invention of the first camera by Thomas Edison in 1889, a photographer by the name of J. Stuart Blackton developed the first technique for animated film. It consisted of a series of drawings and he drew a number of funny faces and then filmed one after the other. This gave the impression of motion and changing facial expression. But it was a very slow process and a long way from being anything like a film. Then a Frenchman, Émile Cole, moved things on a bit by using scenes and figures cut out of paper instead. This meant things could be done more quickly. It was possible to build up a small scene, though a very large number of cutouts were required to do this. And of course, it was all still taking place during the era of silent film. Eventually, Walt Disney came along. He wanted his film characters to look more real, and so he found ways to do this. It took weeks to produce a single film sequence, but in 1928, the first talking animated film came out that had been made using hand-painted slides known as cells. These were placed one on top of the other and then quickly removed. And that first film launched the career of Mickey Mouse, if you remember him. Disney then went on to produce the first full-length colour animated film in 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which earned him the first of his 37 Oscars. Animation changed very little over the next 50 years or so, until the advent of computers and the work of a company called Pixar. Pixar Animation Studios was a graphics group until Steve Jobs invested $10 million in the company. Now it has become a Hollywood icon, with earnings of over $6.3 billion and numerous film awards. In fact, Pixar's films act rather like a timeline of technological developments in computer graphics. So, let's have a look at some of them. Pixar's debut feature film was Toy Story, and this was the first film to be completely animated by computers. When it was released in 1995, many features of the film were seen as outstanding. It is still considered to be one of the most significant achievements in the history of film animation. A later film, Monsters, Inc., which came out in 2001, added a new animation feature, which was the on-screen representation of animal fur. This helped to enhance the appeal of one of the film's central characters. 2 years after that, the award-winning film Finding Nemo, a tale of the lives of some very appealing and visually enchanting fish, pioneered new techniques in digital lighting, which were used to create realistic-looking water. This was an essential feature of the film. Many scenes took place underwater and relied on a certain level of brilliance and clarity throughout. Had they got it wrong, the entire effect would have been lost. And a film called The Incredibles in 2004 brought with it credible human characters and advances in the simulation of crowds. So each of these films introduced new types of physical phenomena, and these days 3D animation can recreate most real-world scenarios. Yet cinema audiences have increasingly high expectations, so how do companies like Pixar plan to meet the challenges of the future? Well, firstly, studios still struggle to create digital humans that audiences like. Up to now, they've been criticised for looking robotic. So the focus for producers now is on simulating more realistic human skin and more detailed facial movement. Both developments are bringing close the day when there will be convincing digital actors on screen. A second aspect that Pixar hope to improve on is the speed at which they can actually produce each frame of animated film. Things have moved on, but the time it takes to do this is basically staying the same. Faster computers help, but work done by companies involved in the production of video games is also hoped to improve things. A further challenge is colour. Pixar is looking ahead to how it can better use its colour palettes and produce more brilliant images. And lastly, the company is hoping to build on methods to stylize its images in films. It seems reality has been the goal for many years, but now they are also trying to break new ground and come up with other concepts. The result could be a new breed of animated films that don't look real or like anything that has gone before. Now, let's take a closer look at
Okay, so I hope you found that not too difficult. I was impressed by, I managed to guess quite a few of them, or half guess a few of them too. Definitely helps when you're able to verify those answers. I'm going to run to the bathroom. I'm now going to invite you guys to put your answers in the chat if you want to put them in the chat. When I come back from the bathroom, then we will check the answers together. And if you have any questions about any of the answers, we will also take a look at that tape script if you want, because that can be a really useful thing too. If you don't get the answers that you want, go back and have a look at the tape script. Anyway, I'm going to run to the bathroom. If you are putting your answers in, I see Future Sancho's writing there. Yeah, maybe. Oh, you are putting the numbers there. That's okay. Okay, yeah, I'm going to run to the bathroom because I'm desperate, but I will be back in a moment. Okay, just checking some of the answers that you've put in. So Future Sancho has been very active in there. Amal says number 1 is funny. Not sure. Future Sancho says representation. Not sure which one that is. It helps if you put the number before the answer, I guess after 6.3 billion. I guess saying number 5 is representation. Anastasia has deleted a message. Jasur has removed a message. Number 10. So Mr. Sultanov isn't sure of number 10. Kind of a tricky one, wasn't it, number 10? Camilla was distracted by notification. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it, when you don't do it in... I've had that in class. The difficult thing with IELTS is that you only get to listen to it once. And sometimes if you're in class, if your mind just drifts off for a second, then you can miss an answer. Okay, AJ... I haven't seen anyone with 10 yet. Some of you are very close. The mouse puts number 1 as funny. Many funny of faces. So that doesn't work, does it? Many of faces. We need a noun there, and funny, unfortunately, isn't a noun. So you can't have many funny of faces. Anastasia also puts funny in there. So many funny of faces doesn't work grammatically. So after many, of course, we want to have a noun. Many kinds, many types. Shuvo says many expression. And again, we can't use expression because we have many, and that means that we need a plural noun, and expression is a singular noun or an uncountable noun. We need a plural countable noun. So yeah, thinking about the whether the grammar of the sentence works is also kind of a useful thing. It doesn't always help us to find the right answer, but it can help us to understand if our answer is wrong or not. Shuvo says number 8 is facial, but remember, you can use two words, and facial is an adjective. And so when we look at number 8, focusing particularly on skin and facial, that doesn't really work because skin is a noun, facial is the adjective of face. So it needs to be facial something. So again, understanding, and this is why, a knowledge of grammar and vocab can definitely be a huge help in this listening test. Just a stupid mistake, didn't notice, of course. Yeah, of course. It happens. It happens to me too. It can happen to anybody. Sometimes being careless. And of course, when you're doing this for fun or when you're doing it for your preparation, it's impossible to take it as seriously as you would if you were taking it in the real test. Anyway, I don't want to go over this for too long. I'm going to go through the correct answer, go through the correct answers, and then I'm going to take any questions if you have it, and then I'm going to invite you to analyze a task. It will be slightly more presentable, the next one. So the first one we had, I thought it was going to be types or kinds, but the actual answer was drawings of faces. I didn't quite predict that one. Many drawings of faces. Let's try to understand why people thought it may have been funny, because we do have the script here. So let's see if we can find that funny. Okay. I won't go through the text for all of them, but I just want to find this one. It consisted of a series of, so if we think of that word many something of drawings, a series of drawings, and he drew a number of funny faces, but consisted of a series of drawings. I can see why you've gone with funny. Okay. All right, number 2, I'm glad that I managed to guess this one before we even listened. I said either paper or cardboard, but I was leaning towards paper. Paper was the correct answer there. Great. Number 3, I couldn't guess that one before, but the answer was hand-painted. Now, technically, you should have it with a hyphen, because it's a compound adjective, but you can use it without the hyphen. So hand-painted with this line or without this line, both of them are acceptable. Number 4, it wasn't difficult to say that we would need a number, but I managed to get that point. I think it was 6.3 billion, wasn't it? What did I write? Yeah, 6.3 billion. So you should write it like this. Now, if you write 6.3 billion, you don't get the mark because you've written too many words. So numbers, fine, 6.3 billion. Monsters, Inc. included... Now, there are 2 possible answers here, either fur or animal fur, but not animal by itself. So some people wrote animal, but we need fur. That's the head noun. Animal is the pre-modification. What kind of fur? Animal fur. And again, this shows why vocab is important. Why is the quality of the PDF so bad? The quality of the PDF seems okay. Just this one was taken from a place where the quality wasn't great. But I think for tasks 2 and 3, the quality of the PDF should be okay. Should be. I hope it is. Okay, animal fur. And again, this is one of the questions in that usually there are a few questions where they're really testing people's vocabulary, not just listening skills. Of course, there are many people at level B1, B2, they don't know this word fur. So when they hear, and it's a strange sound, fur, that vowel sound, fur. Even when they hear the word fur, they can't even think how it might be spelt. So if you got that one right, great job. Number 6, I'm not sure if lighting would be accepted. Digital lighting is definitely the answer, but they may even accept lighting. I think they would accept lighting, actually. I'm going to go with digital lighting to be a bit more specific. Number 7, I thought was probably the most difficult one because I can't really make sense of it. Believable, they use the word credible, which was also kind of distracting because you think of the word credible and you think, oh, it's connected to The Incredibles. It's not. Credible is a synonym for believable. You might know the word creed, like a belief, a religion, a creed. Credible means believable. Simulations of people and crowds. I would never have predicted that one. Crowds. I thought it was going to be buildings or animals or something like that, but no, crowds. I am proud of number 8 that I said maybe facial expressions, but the answer was facial movements or facial, what did I write? Movement, singular. Facial movement. I guess number 9 also. So that was kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of impressive, but I thought like maybe movies, maybe video games, because what else could it be, right? If you have enough time, to sit and think about these questions, it's highly likely that you'll be able to make similar predictions too. The answer was video games. Would you get a correct mark if you said computer games? I don't think so, because they didn't use the term computer games. So we should write what they say, what you hear. And then finally, number 10, styles of animation. This one was also really tricky, but the word we're looking for is reality. So the idea is they mentioned, or let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at what exactly was said, because this one was a particularly tricky one. We look at this, and lastly, that's what we want to find. Yeah, here we go. And lastly, I know this quality isn't very good. The company is hoping to build on methods to stylize its images in films. It seems reality, that's our word, has been the goal for many years. So in the past or in the present, we're focusing on reality, but now Pixar, are trying to break new ground and come up with other concepts. So they want to move from reality to other concepts. Not the easiest thing to get. Probably if it was a reading task, you would have got it. Not the easiest thing to get, and part 4 is always a bit tricky. Always 1 or 2 questions that are, not easy to get. But I just wanted to go through this one a little bit quickly. What about just games? Just games doesn't work because it's not specific enough. So, games could be school games, they could be board games, but just using games, unfortunately, that isn't enough. We have to be a bit more specific. Lighting versus digital lighting, I think they would accept, but just games, that's too far from video games, unfortunately. A few people have written representation for number 5. Yeah, but the thing. So let's take a look at number 5, right? So Monsters Inc. included as a new animation feature, and let's find it here. Monsters Inc. So a later film, Monsters Inc., which came out in 2001, added a new animation feature, keyword, a new animation feature, which was the on-screen representation, but that isn't enough by itself. The representation of what? The representation of clouds? The representation of weather? No, the representation of animal fur. So I can see why you've written representation, but it doesn't really make sense as a whole sentence to say Monsters Inc. included representation as a new animal feature. Sorry, as a new animation feature. Animal fur I could imagine that as a feature. But if somebody said they included representation as a feature, I can't make sense of that semantically. Can we write hand-painted without the hyphen? Yes, you can. Absolutely. It's crazy to realize that listening part involves good reading and writing skills. Yeah, but you know, part of what makes all of the skills, right? So English has, or all languages are broken down into 4 competencies, right? Which is 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, speaking, and 3 or 4 competencies: grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and some people say functions or language functions as a 4th. In order to be a good speaker, you also need to have good listening skills and vocab skills and grammar skills. In order to be a good reader, you don't need pronunciation skills, but you do need to have vocab skills, grammar skills, and things like this. So there's a lot made up in it, right? You can't be a good... The more vocab you know, likelihood is the better you'll be at reading. For the third question, the speaker said also known as cell. Can it be a possible answer? It can't be a possible answer because it doesn't make sense to say cell slides, because hand-painted slides is the same as cells. Hand-painted slides, which they called cells, but we can't say cells slides. It's like saying, I don't know, let's think of... I'm trying to think of an example where they need 2 words which is equal to another one. Yeah, I can't think of an example, but basically hand-painted slides are the cells, but there is no term cells slides. You could use used cells instead of hand-painted slides, but the word slides is given and we can't change it and we can't remove it. So if that wasn't there, you could say used slides. Sorry, used cells. I'm a bit grammatically incompetent. Well, that's what the IELTS test checks, doesn't it? It checks your competence in grammar, in vocabulary, in pronunciation, in functions, in reading, writing, listening, speaking. Future Sancho says, yeah, I just missed that one, but I remembered the word representation. That's why I put it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, absolutely. Guessing and just putting a word is absolutely better than not putting anything. Totally agree. And, you know, this can happen whether you are good at English or not good at English. You can switch off sometimes. And this is, for the highest level, for those who are looking for a band 9, even if you're at that level or when you're at that level, the biggest obstacle is holding it together and focusing. And I think, you know, caffeine helps with that. But anyway, this is the breakdown of this one. And I just wanted to show you, no, not just testing, but just showing how I approach this by trying to, you know, really spending time analyzing the questions, really making predictions about it, and then listening to verify the predictions that I've already made. Of course, when you do it in real time, you have to really read through them super quick. And once you do these, you know, I've been teaching English and preparing students for tests for so many years. Like within 1 year that I started teaching, I had a student preparing them for Cambridge Advanced. And it was difficult for me when I first started. But having done hundreds, thousands of these listening tests, once you start predicting and predicting and predicting, you do find that you can speed up. Anyway, let's get to the next one. So the next one, I don't want to go through this one. This one is in your PDF 2, task 2. I'm not going to go through this one. Instead, I'm going to give you guys some time. This time, I'll give you plenty of time. I'll give you like 4 or 5 minutes just to read through the questions. And I also want you to make predictions either about exactly what the right answer might be. Mouse says, I answered video game for part 9. do lost score. Yeah, video games is important, not just video game. Video game by itself doesn't make sense, so we need video games. And I know that that's brutally harsh, but video games acceptable, video game not acceptable. I know, terrible, isn't it? In some exams, they accept little errors like that. Not in IELTS, sorry. Anyway, so I'll let you read through this. You've got it in the PDF. Hopefully it's not as bad as Shuvo says it is. I'll let you read through it. You can, when we talk about predictions, there are two kinds of predictions. Number one is where we predict the exact the exact answer. And number two is where we think of the kind of information that we're looking for. And that can be semantically, or it could even be grammatically. Are we looking for a verb? Are we looking for a noun? Almost always here, almost always we're looking for nouns. But there are some cases where we use adjectives and verbs and adverbs. But anyway, I'll be quiet. I'll let you read through this, make your own predictions. Then after about 4 or 5 minutes, I'll see what predictions you have and I'll see what predictions I have, and then we will listen to this next part. Coders, I will answer your question in a moment. I just want to give people a few more minutes just to read these, because it is, for me, important to give people plenty of time to carefully consider what the answers might be and see what marks they get. Not yet, Amaos. Okay, Future Sancho's already started posting. Okay, if you want to post your predicted answers in the chat, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to go through some of my predicted answers, and then, you guys can listen and you can decide whether you had something similar or something different, and then we will see, which one of us is right at the end. But if you want to put your Future Sancho's retracted his message now, but if you want to start putting your predictions in the chat, that's absolutely fine. You can share your ideas with other people. That also might help people to change their point of view, which can help them when it comes to listening. This is very much assisted listening. Nice to see some answers coming through. Okay. My head is just about not in the way. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to go through some of my thoughts when I'm reading this. Let's answer Coda's question. Why is there a difference in difficulty among the listening part 4 questions? Because I bought a listening course from Diorbek, and there weren't any difficult questions like these. I don't know. Thank you, Sancho. I don't know why Diorbek. I don't know. People keep talking about Diorbek like I should know who he is. I've heard the name. I've heard that there are a few Diorbeks out there. If you have a issue with Diorbek's listening questions, you should ask them. Him, her. Always better to take them, if you can, from Cambridge Assessment published things, or Oxford University Press, or something like this. I don't know. The level of difficulty in reading and listening can be a little bit different, even though they try to standardize them. It's always impossible to get it exactly appropriate, and that's why sometimes you need just 28 for a band 7 in listening, and sometimes you need 32 for a band 7 in listening, because it depends. They judge how easy or difficult it is after they collect people's marks, and then they decide what scores people should get. So it's a really complicated marking system that Cambridge Assessment has. Cambridge are known for their incredibly opaque, not transparent, not clear marking algorithms, shall we say. Anyway, I'm going to go through some of my answers. Number 11, I have a very clear idea. I'm looking at what other people vanish that are already vanished. So notice this use of the verb to be here. So we can't use a simple verb. Are already plus passive verb, fine. Or are already plus adjective, fine. So are already vanished grammatically doesn't work. Are already extincting. We could use a continuous verb here too, but extinct isn't a verb, so we can't use extincting. Shuvo says are already vanished. That sounds like a perfect verb, right? Have already vanished is probably better. I don't know about vanished as a participle adjective. They are vanished. They have vanished, but vanished as an adjective doesn't quite sound right for me. So I haven't seen any amazing answers yet for this one. There is a particular adjective I have in mind, and that's an adjective that describes animals that don't exist anymore. Anastasia has written extinct. I've also written extinct. I don't know if that's going to be the right answer, but extinct is a great adjective here. Can't use disappears. Gone extinction isn't an expression. To go extinct is an expression, but gone extinction, have already gone extinction, have already gone extinct works. Are already gone extinct might work. To be gone extinct could work as a participle adjective, maybe. Number 32. The main reason for the growing number of species. Let's see what some people have. Endangered, absolutely. Endangered species is written here, which makes me think like, oh, that might be a little bit obvious. So I would think of a few other possible ones. Shuvo says extinction, but extinction species doesn't work. We're looking for probably an adjective before species. Amaos also says endangered. I would probably go with endangered. Sancho also says endangered. So a few people have gone with endangered. Makes sense. To think of some synonyms of threatened species, perhaps. The destruction of their. I'm 90% confident that I know this answer because it's a very common term. The destruction of their nest, Shuvo, but nest is a little bit too specific because not all animals live in nests. So we want something a bit broader. Home is good, Amaos. Can we think of a more academic word for home? We've already seen a few people, Behruz, and you can also paint, says habitat. I think it's going to be habitat. Destruction of their, and we should be careful of habitat or habitats. We should really be careful about which noun they're going to use. Both of them arguably could be used. Number 34, the rapidly human population. The rapidly human population. I think it's going to be some participle. Let's see some answer. Growing, absolutely. Increasing, absolutely. I had those ideas in my mind too. Sancho says demand. The rapidly demand human population. Again, demand is a verb here, and I don't know. I mean, demand can be a noun too, but I don't know how I feel about the verb demand or the noun demand. The rapidly demanding human population. What kind of human population? A demanding human population. That could possibly work, but not just demand on by itself. So that's that one done. I agree with growing, increasing, something like that. Rising, maybe. Resources for. And resources for. So for something. Human population. The rapidly human population needs more land and resources for what? What do humans need more resources for? Living. Okay. Shuvo says monkey. Humans need resources for monkey. For energy. Interesting idea. Interesting idea. Remember, we could use, not just one word. It might be a couple of words. Also something to keep in mind. Just trying to look through other answers. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure for 35. What did I put for 35? Yeah. I put like growth, but I don't think it makes sense. The rapidly increasing human population needs more land and resources for its growth, its development, its continuation, something like this. This is changing and destroying the habitats that plant and animal species need for. So, plants and animals need habitats for what? What do plants and animals need habitats for? Just looking at some people's earlier answers here. Oh, survival, very nice. I think survival would definitely fit there. Shuvo just wrote noun, which is also a good way of approaching it. Amaos wrote survive, but survive is a verb. And again, this is another test of language. This there's a specific term. There's a specific term for it. This word building thing. Can you add those suffixes? Do you know the noun of survive? And Anastasia got survival, which shows really good stuff. Sancho wrote surviving, which kind of works, but in academic language, we tend, if we can find an actual noun, not a noun, not an ing noun, if we can find an actual noun using a better suffix than an ing, not a participle, we tend to go with it in academic language. So survival is more likely to appear than surviving. Okay, 37. One way we can save endangered species and permanently these habitats. What do we want to do? What does this person want to do? This person wants us to the habitats. Protect, says Anastasia. Fantastic. Save, says Shuvo. Great. Retain is not very idiomatic. We want to retain these habitats. So it's not fully idiomatic, and it's unlikely that we'll hear an L1 user use that. Recreate, says Sancho. That's interesting. I think rebuild, but then we don't want to permanently recreate them, do we? That word permanently is important. So we might want to rebuild them once, but we don't want to permanently recreate them over and over again. So a few nice answers there. Number 38, national parks encourage people to enjoy the of species. I found this one difficult. I wrote like something like the presence of species or the... I don't know. I'm not happy with to enjoy the presence of species. Yeah, Anastasia also wasn't sure. Shuba wrote view, the view of species, yeah, the appearance of species, something like this, something along the varieties, says Amaus. Encourage people to enjoy the variety of species, possibly. 39, I found that one difficult, so we need to think of what rules they have. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what might I see on the sign, right? Put your rubbish in the bin. Don't pick the flowers, but leave something. And I can't imagine what you might need to leave. Leave mark just doesn't work as a rule, right? If we say leave mark, so Shuvo says leave mark, and 39 leave on time, maybe leaving the park on time or leaving the place on time or something like that. That's forwards. Yeah. Okay. And we will start listening very shortly. So I don't have any idea for number 39. And then number 40, public will help ensure the survival of our plant and animal species. Public what? I think just support. Public support. I like the idea. Support. Public engagement, says Anastasia. Maybe. I think public support is better. Public pressure. Public movement, says Shuvo. Public parks. Well, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Public parks. Public parks will help ensure the survival. Oh, that's interesting. Public parks. Well, let's put you out of public involvement, says Behruz. I don't know, but how idiomatic that is. Public, we need more public maybe public involvement. Public awareness, that's a great one. Public awareness is possible. But let's put you out of your misery. Now that we've spent a long time making our predictions for this task, let's listen to task 2 and get a pen and piece of paper ready to record your answers, because we're going to listen right now. Any second now. Here we go.
Talk.
Sorry. Right there.
Now listen carefully to the talk and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic in this series of lectures on our planet is about ensuring the survival of our very important plant and animal species. In this lecture, I want to discuss one way that we can do this. No one will ever see a huge dinosaur thundering through the forest. No one will ever see a paradise parrot flash its rainbow colours across the sky. The fact is that many animals and plants have been wiped out. Sadly, they are extinct. It is too late for them. Extinction is forever. We can't do anything about the species that have already disappeared. But today, there are many animals and plants that could still become extinct in the future if we do not act now. They are endangered. The African elephant and rhinoceros have become endangered because of the value of their tusks. Australian parrots and reptiles are smuggled onto planes because certain people in other countries are prepared to pay thousands of dollars for them. And there are many other species around the world that are endangered because they no longer have a place in which to live and reproduce safely. The main cause of extinction is the destruction of habitats. A habitat contains all that a living thing needs to survive: space, light, water, food, shelter, and opportunities for reproduction. The population of the world is growing rapidly, and this is placing great demands on land and resources for housing and for growing food. When vegetation is cleared and swamps are drained for agriculture, mining and suburbs, or when rivers are dammed to store water, plants are destroyed and animal life is threatened. In other words, humans are changing and destroying the habitats of animals and plants, which is in turn reducing their chances of survival. So how can we conserve habitats and help save endangered species? Well, one way is to protect their habitats permanently in national parks or nature reserves. National parks have been created in many countries. They encourage people to enjoy the beauty and diversity of the animals and plants that live there without harming them. By supporting and visiting these parks, people can become more aware of the species that live there and how the parks work to protect them. It is very important that, when visiting a national park, we keep them safe for future generations of plants and animals by obeying a few rules. Firstly, follow the fire regulations. Don't throw cigarettes or build fires, except at certain times of the year in especially allocated areas and facilities. Secondly, remember to leave pets at home. Pets, such as cats or dogs, can hunt birds or other small animals. Some pets might even escape and become a serious threat. Thirdly, place all rubbish in a bin or take it home. Plastic bags or leftover food are dangerous to the animals and harm the environment. Don't pick the flowers or damage the plants. Flowers create the next generation of the plant. Also, for the same reason, birds' eggs must be left in their nests. The loss of species in the past is sad. However, there is hope for the future. Despite the demands of our increasing population, we can work to protect the plant and animal species we still have. So I would like to conclude by saying that I believe that, with strong public awareness and support of these national parks and reserves, the future of endangered species can be ensured.
That is the end of the listening test.
Okay. Funny paper hand-painted. Ooh. Alex King has just put in the answers to the first one. Okay, so why was this one? I mean, I don't think this is like a super authentic text. And the reason for that is that they were going through the answers very quickly. So by the time, you'd written 34, you already needed to pay attention to 35. In the real test, the information is spaced out a little. Now, this resource is taken from Oxford University Press, so they should know better. But in general, in the real test, the information will be stretched out a little bit more to make sure that you're not missing marks when you're writing stuff down. Now, I can't say that all tests will be like that, but generally, when you take something like Cambridge Advanced or Cambridge Proficiency, that is a problem where you need to write and then think immediately about the next one, but you get to listen 2 times. At IELTS, because you only get to listen once, that spacing of information tends to be, a bit more drawn out. Anyway, I got all the answers. I'm fairly sure that they're all correct, but I'm interested in some of your answers. So feel free to put your answers in the chat. Again, I'm going to run very quickly to the bathroom. Put your answers in the chat. When you do that, please put the number next to the answer. Then I will come back, we will check it, and if we need to, we will look at the transcript. But I'll give you just a minute or two just to type your answers and put them in the chat. Coming back soon. Normal. Two people have put their answers in. Guess that means that they're the hardcore ones. Alex King and Behruz. Anyone else? AJ is still here. Good to see. Amaos has put answers in. Quite a few people have gone with, or a couple of people have gone with disappeared for first one. Some people have gone with extinct. Sancho's gone with disappeared. So we have 3 versus 2 on that one. I'll just wait maybe 10, 20 seconds more. Shuvo's also gone with disappeared for the first one. And Anastasia's gone with extinct. So we have, I think, 4 with disappeared and 3 with extinct. Curious. All right, let's check. I won't check the transcript for all of them, but I will check it for the first one because we have big disagreements over this one. Okay. Can anyone recognize the accent, by the way? Does anyone know the accent of the speaker? An interesting thing. I think not a lot of people know this, but you know, if you're British, when you meet someone and you hear them speak, immediately you can tell like where they're from, not just the country, but like, oh, they're from Bristol, or they're from London, or they're from Yorkshire, or they're from Scotland, or they're from Manchester area. This one was from Australia. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic is in this series of lectures on our planet is about ensuring the survival. Yeah, that's what Australian sounds like. Anyway, let's take a look at this. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. No one will ever see a huge dinosaur. No one will ever see a paradise parrot. Lots of interesting vocab. The fact is that many animals and plants have been wiped out. So you could use that as an adjective. Sadly, they are extinct. You can use that one. Extinction is forever. So you may use wiped out. For me, the most correct answer is extinct here, but they will accept wiped out, I'm fairly sure. Have been wiped out. They are wiped out as a participle adjective. That works. Those animals are wiped out. We can't do anything about the species that have already disappeared. And the problem is, you might think, well, why can we accept wiped out, but we can't accept disappeared? Well, because wiped out works. It's idiomatic as a participle adjective. This animal is wiped out. This animal is disappeared, just doesn't work as an adjective. So disappear feels very verby. Wiped out is a verb, but it can be made into an adjective. So disappeared isn't accepted, but wiped out is. But the best answer is definitely extinct. We're looking for an adjective. We're not looking for a present simple passive verb. They are disappeared. Doesn't really make sense to say that these animals are disappeared. Anyway, so that are already extinct. Number 32, just seeing what some people have. Growing number of, yeah, this one was endangered. Anyone put endangered? Yeah, a few people put endangered. Endangered. Place. A mouse put place. A number of place species. So place species doesn't really work. Yeah, endangered species is the destruction of their habitats with an S. And I think we need that S. Destruction of their habitats with an S. The word that they used in 34 was growing, the rapidly growing human population. I'll go through these fairly quickly, and then if you have questions about any of them or you want an explanation, I'll do that at the end. So the rapidly growing human population. And number 35, this one came at us really fast, and I wrote down housing and food. Housing and food was what I wrote down. Let's see what other people have. A mouse has 35 housing. They may accept housing. Plants, no. Housing, says Anastasia. So let's have a look at that one, because I want to check, is wiped out with a hyphen a mistake? No, it's fine. Wiped out with a hyphen is fine. Wiped out without a hyphen is also okay. It's not hyphenated in the text because it's used as a verb, but when it's used as a compound adjective, it can be hyphenated. But I just want to check this one for housing and food. Let's find that. Not personal debt. We want this one. So the population of the world is growing. That's that word, growing rapidly. And this is placing great demands on land and resources for housing and for growing food. So I think they will accept housing as just the answer. For housing, I put for housing and food. But definitely for housing, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Okay. Anastasia got this one. She predicted this one beforehand for survival. If you're not sure how to spell that word, I'll just put it in there. Survival. One way we can save endangered species and permanently, what was it, protect? Or did they use a different word? Yeah, protect. I have the word protect. Permanently protect these habitats is to create and support national parks and reserves. National parks encourage people to enjoy the beauty and diversity. Really difficult one to predict. We can see that some of them are definitely predictable, but who would have predicted to enjoy the beauty and diversity of species without harming them? Number 39 was also a tricky one. Leaving pets at home. Pets, your companion animals, dogs and cats. Pets at home. I would never have predicted that one. Leaving pets at home. As a rule. And then finally, number 40, public awareness is fine, public support is fine, or public awareness and support is fine. So public awareness, public support, or public awareness and support. And a few of us, somebody predicted awareness. I think I went with public support, didn't I? Not sure. But okay, those are the answers for part 3. Sorry, for task 2. And so really interesting to see how many you folks managed to predict. if you can get into the habit of doing these tests, fairly regularly, and also checking your own answers with the transcript, trying to make sure that you understand why the right answer is the right answer, that can be useful. However, first of all, before we continue, does anyone want an explanation of any of these answers? I know I went through them fairly quickly. I will wait just a little bit because I know there is sometimes a delay. Well, I guess not. That was a bit harder. Yeah, like I mentioned, Sancho, I think it was harder just because the information was packed in more tightly. It might happen at IELTS, but like I say, in my experience, especially, 3 or 4 years ago, those texts were really stretched out. I didn't get leaving pets at home because of the accent. I was like, leaving them where? Let's listen to that one, and someone also asks for 37. So let's have a look at 37. One way we can save and permanently protect. Let's have a look. Okay. So we get this paragraph here. So, how can we conserve habitats? Wait, would they? I don't know. How can we conserve habitats and help endangered species? Well, one way is to protect their habitats permanently in national parks or nature reserves. One way is to protect their habitats permanently in national parks or nature reserves. Keep that sentence in mind. One way is to protect their habitats permanently in nature reserves. One way we can save endangered species and permanently protect these habitats is to create and support national parks and reserves. Hope that's clear. Should we put words proszę to the sense of answer? Not quite sure what proszę means there. We really should use the words that we hear, so we don't want to change the words that we hear at all. Anastasia missed that pets at home, pets at home, pets at home, pets at home, because of the Australian accent. Let's just listen to that just one more time about leaving pets at home.
Fires, except at certain times of the year in especially allocated areas and facilities. Secondly, remember to leave pets at home. To leave pets at home. Secondly, remember to leave pets at home. To leave pets at home. To leave pets at home. To leave pets at home.
To leave pets at home. Remember to leave pets at home. Hopefully, Anastasia, you heard it that time. Another thing that you might want to do if you struggle with pronunciation is sometimes, and thanks to technology we can do this, is to listen to things at a slightly slower speed.
Secondly, remember to leave pets at home. Pets such as...
Remember to leave pets at home. Is writing at home mandatory? Yeah, because leaving pets by itself doesn't work. Leaving pets. Yeah, it doesn't... I don't think they would accept just leaving pets. Leaving pets plus where? Leaving pets at home. Yeah, leaving pets. You could use not bringing pets. These include following fire regulations, not bringing pets, placing all rubbish in a bin. But yeah, leaving pets at home is required. Yeah, no, it's clear. I hope so. I still hear horn? Yeah. Pets at home. Yeah, it's Australians. It's not their fault, I promise. All right. So, of course, once you do this, right, you do your preparation, you spend a lot of time looking and preparing and looking and predicting and looking and analyzing and then listening, and you feel that you're you can get your target score, the next task, of course, is to speed it up. And we're going to speed it up right to the end. So the next one we're going to do in fairly test conditions, but just a little bit longer. So I'm going to give you 45 seconds to read the questions for the third part. Again, you can find this in the PDF. Where is the PDF? The PDF is, because it will be more difficult to read this on screen. The PDF is in my Telegram channel. You can read it there. I just want to check my Telegram channel very quickly because I can see that I have a lot of messages and I want to make sure it's not coming from our chat. Oh, it's not coming from our chat. That's great. I mean, it's sad, but it's great. Okay. So, task 3. Going to be a bit more difficult to see on the screen, so I really recommend that you use the PDF for this. I'm going to give you this time just 45 seconds. Now, of course, you won't be able to do a lot of analysis. You won't be able to do a lot of predicting. You need to do the things that first come to your mind. Okay, that. Okay, can't think of that one. Okay, that. Can't think of that one. Can't think of that one. Can't think of that one. Okay, that. And then we will listen. Your 45, please turn to task 3 now. Your 45 seconds of preparation time to read the questions and make fast, snappy predictions in your mind. Your 45 seconds start now. All right, so that's the end of your preparation time. Get a pen and piece of paper ready because we're going to listen to it right now.
Welcome to today's public lecture on the topic of personal debt. I'm Ray Goodman from the Community Debt Centre, and I'd like to present to you today the second part of our 3-lecture series. Today we're going to look at how debt affects our lives. Debt is nothing new. It's found throughout human history and in every society. Many people know what it feels like to be in debt. Those of you who have bought a house will probably have a mortgage. Perhaps you have borrowed money from family or friends or got a loan for a car. Debt can sometimes be a way of juggling financial commitments and of paying in advance for things that you really need. For everyday living, you might not earn enough money from your job to pay for all the things that you need. You may require a little extra money in the form of credit cards. But debt has a darker side. Imagine how you would feel if you were deeply in debt and unable to repay what you owed. The consequences for many people can be disastrous. Today, people in the richer countries of the world live in a society where credit is easily accessible. Banks, building societies and credit card companies often encourage people to take out loans. They then make money by charging interest. For very low income earners, borrowing from a bank can be impossible. Instead, they are forced to take out a much higher interest loan from a private lender. They soon find that despite cutting back on many essentials, they are unable to keep up with these repayments. They are forced to take out another loan and find themselves plunging deeper and deeper into debt. People can find themselves with growing debts if they are unable to repay interest. This may be because of a sudden life-changing event, such as a business failure or losing a job. But for many households, debt is a means of survival. In developing countries, people borrow a tiny sum of money from a local landowner, for example, to pay for medical treatment. They agree that a child would work as a full-time servant to repay the debt, and that child becomes a bonded labourer. But since they are never paid, there is no hope of clearing the debt. Their life is ruled by fear. With no money, education, or experience of life, it is impossible for them to escape. Today, debt bondage is a major form of slavery. As you can see, debt affects everyone all over the world to varying degrees. I hope the information I have presented to you today will make you think twice about getting into spiralling debt. Of course, if you are already finding yourself in financial difficulties, please make an appointment to see one of our helpful staff members after this talk. Thank you.
That is the end of the listening test.
Madness. Absolute madness. I wish I'd listened to these before, but I always want to do it as authentically as possible. I don't want to cheat or practice or listen to it beforehand. Again, I do feel this was taken from the same resource as the previous one, and it's published by Oxford University Press, so it should be reliable. However, for me, it's a little bit too condensed. The listening text is a little bit short, and the time is really difficult to write those answers in. Anyway, I will give you 30 seconds or a minute to write your answers in. Then we will look at them together, and I have big questions about one of them, because I had to transform a word that I heard from I think from an adjective to a noun or something like this. I think. Anyway, put your answers in the chat. We'll check them together. I'm a little bit unsure about one or two of them, and we'll see how you did. Waiting for your answers. Sorry, I'm new here. Could I know where are these tests from? Yeah, it's a bit late for that. We've just finished doing the final test. I'm really stupid, I feel that. No, it's really not that you're stupid. This one was tough. And like I say, the reason this one was tough, I don't think it was a real authentic IELTS test. I mean, the task is very IELTS, right? You complete the notes, 10 questions. The task is very IELTS, but for me, the text is a little bit too fast. And I don't mean that they're speaking quickly. I mean that one answer follows the next answer far too quickly. Usually, that's a sign that it's one of those tests where you get to listen to twice. But IELTS, you only get to listen once, and so the information is usually stretched out more. So it's not that you're stupid. I understand you might want to cry. No reason to cry. So, I am going to play the recording one more time to give you that chance to get it, and I want to listen to it one more time before I want to listen to it one more time also. But it is from Oxford University Press, so it feels like not really. I mean, the language feels IELTS-y. It's just that it is too bloody quickly. Let's listen one more time.
Welcome to today's public lecture on the topic of personal debt. I'm Ray Goodman from the Community Debt Centre, and I'd like to present to you today the second part of our 3-lecture series. Today we're going to look at how debt affects our lives. Debt is nothing new. It's found throughout human history and in every society. Many people know what it feels like to be in debt. Those of you who have bought a house will probably have a mortgage. Perhaps you have borrowed money from family or friends or got a loan for a car. Debt can sometimes be a way of juggling financial commitments and of paying in advance for things that you really need. For everyday living, you might not earn enough money from your job to pay for all the things that you need. You may require a little extra money in the form of credit cards. But debt has a darker side. Imagine how you would feel if you were deeply in debt and unable to repay what you owed. The consequences for many people can be disastrous. Today, people in the richer countries of the world live in a society where credit is easily accessible. Banks, building societies and credit card companies often encourage people to take out loans. They then make money by charging interest. For very low income earners, borrowing from a bank can be impossible. Instead, they are forced to take out a much higher interest loan from a private lender. They soon find that despite cutting back on many essentials, they are unable to keep up with these repayments. They are forced to take out another loan and find themselves plunging deeper and deeper into debt. People can find themselves with growing debts if they are unable to repay interest. This may be because of a sudden life-changing event, such as a business failure or losing a job. But for many households, debt is a means of survival. In developing countries, people borrow a tiny sum of money from a local landowner, for example, to pay for medical treatment. They agree that a child would work as a full-time servant to repay the debt, and that child becomes a bonded labourer. But since they are never paid, there is no hope of clearing the debt. Their life is ruled by fear. With no money, education or experience of life, it is impossible for them to escape. Today, debt bondage is a major form of slavery. As you can see, debt affects everyone all over the world to varying degrees. I hope the information I have presented to you today will make you think twice about getting into spiralling debt. Of course, if you are already finding yourself in financial difficulties, please make an appointment to see one of our helpful staff members after this talk. Thank you.
That is the end of the listening test.
Sorry about that. Okay, so hopefully on the second listen it was a little bit easier. Now, in IELTS, you're not supposed to do transformations. You're not supposed to change words. However, in this task, you were required to do that. So that's another way in which this task, or the task really isn't very authentic. But anyway, let's have a look at the answers first of all, and we will go through them if we need to. Если что, as they say. Okay, so to buy a house, you need what do you need? A few people got this, mortgage. Cool. Just be careful with the spelling. Behruz has got it right. AJ has just spelt it incorrect. And an incorrect spelling mistake here means that you lose the point, unfortunately. Sancho spelled mortgage correctly. So did Amaos. So it can be really tough. Unfortunately, AJ misspelled mortgage. Yeah, it actually means death tax, mortgage, mort, maybe, like mortician or something like this, or mortuary. Yeah. Okay. Now, number 32 was get a loan, but they actually used the past. Perhaps you got a loan, but they say need to get a loan. And so really you shouldn't have to transform words like this in IELTS. So sorry about the lack of authenticity. Still good practice. To buy a car, you need to get a loan. 33, to buy everyday items, you need credit cards, and they use the plural here, so not a credit card, but you need credit cards. Behruz got it. AJ said extra money. Maybe you need extra money. Oh, that's interesting. Let's see it. Let's see if they mentioned anything about extra money. Let's have a look. So this one, or got a loan. So notice the past simple there. Perhaps you have borrowed money from family or friends or got a loan for a car. Debt can sometimes be a way of juggling, like combining, mixing financial commitments and paying in advance for things that you really need. For everyday living, you might not earn enough money from your job. You may require a little extra money in the form of credit cards. I can see why you wrote extra money. So for everyday things, you need extra money. I think that's a fair justification. I think you could say, actually, you need extra money. That's what you said. Correct answer, I'm fairly sure, will be credit cards, but extra money is an interesting alternative. Anyway, let's keep going. So 33, you need credit cards. People in countries have access to, or easy access to. This was another one where you needed to do a word transformation. So notice they use the adjective accessible. As I remember, they use the adjective accessible. Let's have a look. Today, we are here. Today, people in the richer countries of the world live in a society where credit is easily accessible. Easily accessible transforms to have easy access to. And in the reading question, they have that have, which forces that transformation. 34, people in developed countries have easy access to credit. So in IELTS, you really shouldn't have to do those transformations. You should just be able to write the word that you hear. But this task is a little bit strange. Okay, for poor people, they must use a private lender for a... What did I write for that one? Higher interest loan. Now, you could just use loan. I think they would accept loan. High interest loan is fine. Higher interest loan. Higher interest loan is probably the best one. A few people got that one. Well done. Then 36, people have increasing debts when they cannot repay interest. So, of course, when you take out a loan, that interest grows. And so when they cannot, they use the term when they are unable to. So to be unable to is that synonym of cannot, when they are unable to repay interest. This might be because of something unplanned, for example, a failed business or losing a job, but losing with one O. I noticed somebody wrote it with two O's, not losing, but losing a job with one O. That's how you spell losing. A lot of British people spell it with two O's too. They shouldn't. It should be with one O. Losing a job. Okay, then getting down to this one. This first one is servant, but I think you can use a pre-modifier to full-time. So agreement made for a child to work as two possibilities, either simply servant or a full-time servant. Anastasia got that. Amaus got that. Child turns into a bonded labourer. Child never paid. Now, this is an interesting one because it's a short form. The child is never paid. We want to think, of course, of a verb, right? The child never gets paid, but the child is never paid. And in a short form with notes, we just write child never paid. Man arrested for murder. I don't know. Bank card taken to park. Child never paid. So it's actually a shortened headline language passive. Child never paid for 39. Never. And then finally, number 40, this term was debt bondage. And they used a typical IELTS trick where they fronted it. Debt bondage becomes a child who becomes involved in da-da-da-da-da. So they front that, but it's debt bondage. Oh, Anastasia got never and wrote bandage with an A. Unfortunately, it should be bondage with an O. I see. Yeah, AJ got bondage. Don't think many people got never. Yeah, that one with never was really tricky. And I'll just show you that one with never. So step 3, the child never gets paid. Let's see if we can just find that one. That's habitats. So we have that step. So become a full-time servant. The child becomes a bonded laborer. Step 2, since they are never paid. They are never paid. Child never paid. Then can't escape, and then debt bondage with that O. Yeah. So hopefully that's fairly clear. Hopefully. Anyway, those are your 3 listening tests. The first one was with my breakdown analysis and predictions. The second one was with your breakdown analysis and predictions. And the third one was more like test conditions. But these texts were not great, but still, it's still good for your exam skills. It's still good for your English listening skills. I recommend, listening to a variety of different tests, not to be too IELTS focused, and try to practice. Try to do some practice, try to develop your skills with listening outside of the IELTS test. And that doesn't just mean, watching TV, listening to podcasts, things like this. It also means trying out other tests, sharpening your skills, forcing yourself to be analytical. So, I apologize that the texts weren't massively authentic. Maybe this is a lesson for me that next time I should not worry about wanting to be a candidate like you guys and doing the task along with you, but perhaps I should select the material a little bit more carefully. But it was fairly IELTSy. I would say it was 70% IELTSy, this task, but maybe not quite 100% IELTSy. But yeah, those are Sorry. I have this habit when I make my lessons and when I make my videos and I go back to this slide, I usually say, those are my thoughts. Please let me know in the comments section what you think. More videos from me coming soon, and so on. But I will offer just a chance for any burning questions. It doesn't have to be about listening. It can be about any part of this IELTS test, or about anything about learning English or anything else. Yeah, those headphones. I do have a pair of orange headphones, but no pink ones, unfortunately. Maybe that's something for me to consider in the future. Behru says, thanks for the joint practice. If it's possible, I want to clarify one thing regarding writing. What can we expect when we only manage to finish task 2? Well, you can expect no higher than a band 6. So they're weighted to, I believe they're weighted to 40 marks, right, each module. So when they work out your score, they'll work out your score out of 40. But 1/3 of that, so 1/3 of 40, that's about, 13? The maximum you can get if you only do task 2, if your task 2 is absolutely perfect, then the maximum you can get is 33 out of 40, which might still be enough for a band 7, but even band 9s don't get absolute, super, super, super maximum. Well, sometimes they do. I would say realistically, not mathematically, if you only do task 2, it's probably going to be maximum 6.5. Probably. Anastasia asks, can 32 be borrow money or it's too far? Let's have a look back at 32. I'll just have a look quickly just to give you a quick answer. Yeah, because they did mention perhaps you borrowed money from a friend. Maybe I would accept. Let's have a look at that. The wording. Let's go back to that wording. Those of you who've bought a house, we are here. Those of you who've bought a house will probably have a mortgage. Perhaps you've borrowed money from family or friends, or got a loan for a car. So it's a big debate over what is this for a car? Is for a car only connected to got a loan? Or is it borrowed money from family and friends for a car? There is a possible justification that you could use. borrowed money from family and friends for a car. So possibly that would be considered. So I think it's a kind of a poorly designed task. We never want like multiple answers to be justifiable, or if multiple answers are justifiable, we want to award marks for all of those possible correct answers. A correctly designed test will never have a candidate giving a justifiably correct answer but then an incorrect mark. So that shouldn't happen. Anastasia says, спасибо, that was off the charts. Пожалуйста, всегда пожалуйста. Я надеюсь, что у вас нет крови в ушах, когда я говорю по-русски. Потому что у меня только уровень B2. Простите. Sorry. Anyway, no more Russian. No. I forgot Chinese. 我现在我会说汉语，对不起。所以我一定说英语. Ac os ydych chi eisiau bod dwi'n siarad mewn Cymraeg ydych chi, dwi hefyd yn gallu siarad mewn Cymraeg. Ond dwi'n meddwl does neb yn gallu deall gair dwi'n dweud o gwbl pan dwi'n siarad Cymraeg. Because Welsh is a totally different language to probably everything you've ever heard. Anyway, back to questions. Anything more? Let's have a look. It would be great if you could also arrange live reading practice. Yeah, maybe some reading practice would be fun. I always find like reading practice is a bit difficult to do on a live stream because, you know, most people turn up and they think, well, everyone's silent. Like at least with listening, there's something going on. But, you know, reading practice is very passive, isn't it? It's just a bunch of us sitting here reading. But it is possible. I mean, I don't care that much for views. It's nice to, yeah, okay, fine. Let's do some reading. We'll do some reading. Not right now. So few people are interested in the reading. Cool, good news. The level of authenticity of some tasks haven't been worth your time, Glyn. It's okay. It's always fun to do these tasks. Fun, kind of. 7.25 would be 7.5 PR7. 7.25 would be. So if you're overall, Sancho, if you talk about all of the test overall, then 7.25 increases to 7.5. If we just talk about something, an individual part, like the individual speaking or the individual writing, then 7.25 rounds down to 7.0. Redux says, can you show how you solve reading, especially matching headings? I mean, I can, but I don't. I mean, the thing with reading is that it is so much about grammar and vocabulary. Everyone's looking for like tips and tricks and hacks for the reading. Tips and tricks and hacks and solving and solutions and strategies and tactics. Of course, it's useful to underline things. It's useful to talk about things like skimming and scanning and what approach I use. Do I read the text first or do I go to the questions first? I can do that, but I often find that the thing that will get you marks in reading is having good grammar and vocab. And I know that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear, you know, use this special trick. There are so many videos like that. The only reading strategy you need for a band line in 2026. It's like, okay. Never mind. Future Sancho says, Ваш русский очень хорош. Wow, краткое прилагательное. Thank you. You can, можно на ты. And I find it difficult with listening maps. I'm stupid with that. Yeah. Labeling tasks are sometimes problematic. I thought you were speaking English for a second. Sometimes I speak English. Behruz says, I thought that writing works are marked this way. Our 4 scores for the task 2 are added twice. Okay, so, Behruz, kind of, right? So, task 2 is worth twice as many marks as task 1. And so people have decided that, this is a way of working out what mark I would get. Because if task 2 is worth twice as many marks as task 1, then that's a formula that we can use. So that is a formula that can be used. However, Cambridge assessments IELTS writing marking is a black box. When I say it's a black box, I mean that nobody knows how it works. Examiners just award the mark, right? 7, 6, 6, 8. Cool. They put it down, and one examiner will mark one part, a second examiner will mark the other part. Those marks are then taken somewhere else. Sometimes quality assurance is done. Sometimes someone looks at those, they check the examiner, check the mark is the same, and then that might change it slightly. But even then, it goes into a box, not a physical box, a metaphorical box. It goes into a box, it goes into an algorithm, and then a score is produced. And I promise you, nobody knows how that works. Examiners don't know how it works. Examiners are not even close to knowing it. The administrators for IDP, British Council, they don't know how it works. I even doubt if Cambridge Assessment knows how it works exactly. It is a black box. Nobody knows exactly how it works. What I would say to candidates is, forget about it. Forget exactly about how the scores work. If you write a task 1 at band 7 level and a task 2 at band 7 level, you're going to get a band 7. And that's what you need to do. Think about your target level. What is the target level that I have for IELTS? And then work on achieving that target level. Forget about examiners. Forget about the exact mathematical formulas that are used to work out all of that stuff. It is not worth your time, I promise you. Okay, Coders asks, don't you have any plan to conduct a course for speaking or reading? I not for reading. I was thinking of doing like a couple of different possible courses for speaking, just to sell them off for cheap, just to build something, just to have something there, because a lot of people have asked to me to make a course. At the moment, I'm like, I have a hugely busy examining period coming up next week. There's also a lot of stuff on my YouTube channel that I want to do. For Valentine's Day, I'm going to have a speaking test with a dating coach, a love expert, a counselor. So that if you watch that video with the chess streamer, I'm going to do one with a love expert for Valentine's Day. And I'm trying to find an Olympian from the Winter Olympics to do one too. So I want to do a bit more of that stuff this year too, as well as like stuff engaging with my dear audience. So courses, and I have a hugely busy examining period starting next week, and I'll be busy examining until the end of May at least. That's not on my YouTube. I mean, that's as my job. So that's something I'll be doing maybe after May. And I also have a launch of a teaching platform that's going to be completely separate. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up in the next few months. So maybe I'll do a course by the end of the year, but not anytime soon. Sorry. Reddick says, children today find it difficult to concentrate, to pay attention. Is this an IELTS writing task 2 essay? To pay attention to while at school. Why this is the case? How can we solve the problem? That looks like an IELTS essay. I don't work with kids. I haven't worked with kids for a long time. The last time I worked with kids was a teenage group, like 14, 15. And that was a long time ago. That was like 2018. So I don't work with kids. I always found working with teens was really rewarding. I found like a bit more stimulating, actually. You get some really interesting conversations when you work with teens. Sometimes adults are too tired and stuff like that. So in my experience, working with teens was always, not always, but it was often fun. I mean, I could speculate about Zoomer culture, but I don't spend time with young people at all anymore, unfortunately, apart from, like, I have a niece and 2 nephews. AJ says, should we use ChatGPT to assess our writing or speaking abilities? Speaking, no. You can use ChatGPT to find grammatical mistakes, fine. You can use ChatGPT to practice speaking, right? If you can... Like, I made a prompt for ChatGPT to make it behave a bit more like an examiner so that it didn't do all of that, like, oh, that's a good point. I see what you mean. That's very interesting. If you'd like to explore that in further detail. So I created a prompt where ChatGPT would actually act like an examiner. That can be good practice. But relying on it to give you marks, no. Relying on it to judge your pronunciation, it can't do anything with pronunciation at all because it doesn't hear you. When you speak to ChatGPT, it writes down what you say and then reads, so it gets nothing from your pronunciation at all. But my testing has reached that conclusion. It is certainly a very, very useful tool if you're learning vocab, if you want to see vocab in context. Maybe you have like 20 bits of vocab and you want to see it in context. You say, okay, write a story, but make sure that you include these things in context, or write an article and make sure that you include these words. It can be great for like copying an article, and then you say to ChatGPT, remove all of the prepositions, and then you test yourself on prepositions. There are so many ways that we can use ChatGPT for language learning. However, using it as an examiner isn't good at all. Behruz says you're absolutely right. It's better to improve writing skills. Doesn't this make marking process undermine the integrity of the whole exam? Well, we just want examiners. So what do we want from our examiners? We want them to mark exams, mark writing accurately. And they're fairly decent at marking writing accurately. We also want them to have some quality assurance thing, a security blanket. We want to make sure that other people are checking that the examiners do the work. And I will say that IELTS is very, very good at making sure that the examiners can do their work, right? It's not a case that you get accreditation as an examiner and then you're an examiner for life. No, you need to keep doing your training. You need to keep, if you're inactive for a certain amount of time as an examiner, then you can't just go back into examining. You have to retake. I took a break from examining on one exam, and when I was ready to come back, they said, yeah, fine, you can come back, but you have to go back to the training first. So that wasn't for IELTS, that was for a different exam, but IELTS is the same as that. So the integrity of the exam, I think, is okay, but I would like to see them more transparent. Almost nobody knows that writing rounds down. There's nothing that you find online that says that if you get 7776, it's actually 6.5, not 7.0. There's nowhere on the official BDC, IDP, BC, Cambridge assessment, nothing tells you that. So I wish they were more transparent with that. I wish they were more transparent with how they mark on the curve for the reading and listening, how exactly the marks for writing are calculated. They should be transparent, but I think the integrity of the test is more or less okay. There are definitely some test centers in provincial areas where corruption happens, cheating happens. That's really unfortunate, but they, as far as I can see, they do try to make sure that doesn't happen. What kind of prompt? I put it in my Telegram channel a while ago. Yeah, it's in my Telegram. If you go into my Telegram channel and just search ChatGPT, you'll find that prompt. It's quite long. I can't paste it here. It's really, really long. Which model is better for preparation? Model of ChatGPT, or which model of what? The problem with ChatGPT is that it's trained to be conversational. It's trained to do something that we call back channeling, because back channeling is a natural part of communication, right? You say to someone, oh, I went for a meal last night, and they say, oh, that's interesting. Did you? What did you have? That sounds very good. We don't want examiners in part 1 of IELTS speaking to do that. We want them to be cold, brute robots. What did tell me? Oh no, let's say, do you like eating at home or eating out? When did you last eat out? Have you ever had breakfast in a cafe? Are you planning to eat out soon? That's all we want from the examiner in part 1. ChatGPT is I still have problems with it. But I got the prompt to work for a certain amount of time. I don't know. I use ChatGPT. I use Gemini from time to time, but they're all fine. They're all fine as instruments, but you really have to know how to use them. And you really should be thinking, how can I use them as a language learner rather than can I use ChatGPT to be an examiner? ChatGPT isn't an examiner. Beckru says, true. So is the speaking, the average rounded down? The speaking, yes. The writing, yes. They round down, but the overall rounds up. You can find information that says that the scores round up the overall scores, but you can't find that information that says that the individual scores round down. Reddick says, I don't understand. Our writing is checked by real examiners or with AI. Real examiners, 100% real examiners. I know there are conspiracy theories, there are ideas that they're using the AI. They're not. Yeah, AI is not checking people's writing. If AI was, then it would be a complete disaster. I mean, maybe we're a few years away. I think certainly in the future, probably AI will be able to do that. Amao says, большое спасибо. У нас много сегодня, которые говорят по-русски. Интересно. Если вы не русскоговорящий, вы сейчас думаете, блин, что он говорит? It also seems unfair that candidates applying for remark are not really informed about how the process goes. Yes, transparency, I think, is important. I would like for them to be more transparent, but you know, I'm sure they have reasons. Many of them are really like. A lot of exams are very, very touchy about the kind of information that you award, right? Like I was preparing a student for an exam that I was an examiner for, and I was told that I wasn't, even when I was in private teaching that person, I wasn't allowed to give my own student a mark. I could give feedback, but I couldn't give a mark. That was against the rules. So some exams are really, really what's written on your hoodie. It's a lyric from a band that I know. So there's a Russian band called Good Times, and they have a song called, maybe you can read it, but it's written backwards. I don't know if anybody knows the band Good Times. I think they got a bit popular, didn't they, recently in the last few years? I don't know. Who knows? I'm just stretching my back. All right, I'm going to head off very shortly, but I will just ask if anyone has any other burning questions before I disappear. 176 views, 15 concurrent viewers. Wow. At the same time. Chat rate is 2. I have no idea what chat rate means. I guess there are no further questions. I will say again a huge thank you to the person who actually sent me a super chat. The first ever super chat that I got on. I'm seeing if I can pin it. No, I can't. The first ever super chat that I've got on YouTube, I got today. So that's nice. Very, very kind. Is that possible to talk too much or it contribute misunderstanding or accept off topic if your speech too long? Generally speaking, Redux, your answers should be of a reasonable length. If you speak too long, the examiner will interrupt you, but the examiner doesn't want to keep interrupting you time after time after time. And the point I make to my students is always, don't take unnecessary risks. Taking some risks with grammar, some risks with vocab, that's fine, but don't take unnecessary risks. So if someone says something like, what do you usually have for breakfast? Tell the examiner what you usually have for breakfast, and then maybe add one more detail. I usually have porridge for breakfast because I'm usually not very hungry in the morning, and something really simple like porridge is enough for me. And that's fine. Don't need any more. Candidates who keep wanting to go on, it's a bit weird. We're always looking for just natural language use. If you love Russian rock, you should check out the band called Machina Vremeni. The machine of our time, or the car of our time. Thank you for the recommendation. Thanks that you're doing all these for free. Oh, it's, anyone on YouTube is a little bit narcissistic and loves to get a bit of attention. So, I'm kind of getting paid psychologically, perhaps. Sancho says, now I hope we will have listening practice again. Okay, nice that you enjoyed it. Some people asked to do reading practice, so probably we'll do reading, but speaking is probably what most people are really interested in. So probably the next one will be speaking, the one after will be reading, and maybe the one after that will be writing, and then we'll get back to some speaking, possibly. If anybody does know an Olympian who's taking part in the Winter Olympics and would like to be a candidate on the channel, please let me know, because I'm writing to a bunch of Winter Olympic athletes right now saying like, hey, I have a YouTube channel. Do you want to be a candidate to have like an interview? Not many people reply to me, but it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, thank you all for your company. I really appreciate all of your kind comments and your ongoing support. It's always a pleasure, always nice. Yeah, more stuff from me coming soon.